Welcome to the Credit Bank Small Business Spotlight, where we spotlight inspiring business owners. We learn their stories and they share what drives their success. This episode is sponsored by Credit Bank, where you can get up to $500,000 in working capital in less time it takes you to drive to the bank. I'm your host, Irv Cruz, and today my wonderful guest is Kelly Schuknecht. She is the CEO and founder of 2 Mile High Marketing. Kelly, thank you for joining us.
Well, that was an amazing welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours. So I always like to start these interviews by going back to like where it all started. So tell us about your business and how that business got started and why you started that business.
Yeah. So my business, we're going to go way back to November 2024.
Okay. That far back. I can't remember that far, Kelly.
Yeah. Only been, what, 3-4 months, right?
Right.
Since I started my business. But here's the amazing journey that I've been on. So I started my career, or kind of the beginning of my career, in publishing. I worked in publishing for 10 years. I ran a publishing company.
Okay.
When I left that, I met somebody at a conference who he had already written a book, and because of my background and experience, he said, "Can you help me publish this?" And I said, "Yeah." So that turned into a 7-year working relationship. That was my boss. It turned into my boss. I was hired to build out the marketing department for his company. And I was there for 7 years. We were acquired. So I did my job. I like to think of it like this. I did my job so well that I lost it because
I have never heard that. Tell me more.
Yeah. So we grew from 4 million to 12 million in the 7 years that I was there. Right. And a big part of that was marketing and, obviously marketing and sales, but I had a big role in that. But we were acquired. And because of that acquisition, I then lost my job because the company that acquired us had a marketing department, and they said, "We don't need you anymore." And I said, "Okay." So I suspected that was coming for a while, and because the acquisition was a 5-year transition. So 2.5 years into it is when they said, "We don't need you anymore." So I had that 2.5 years to think like, okay, I think probably when this acquisition is over, I thought I had till the end of the 5 years, but I thought when this acquisition is over, they're probably going to say like, "We don't need you anymore." So I was starting to think like, what will I do next? Right. And so I'm really fortunate to have had 2 years to prepare my brain for that, because I'm not a risk taker. I would have never just taken the leap into the unknown and started a business. But because I had 2 years to really think about, what do I want to do next? Do I want to, what kind of job do I want to look at? Do I want another director of marketing role? Do I want to, be a head of marketing, a CMO? Do I want to start something new? I landed on, I want to start my own thing. And I had been thinking about it for a long time. I had started my website. I had actually, I already had the business name. All of that. So the day that they let me go, I went, all right, time to do this. Right. And so I'm really fortunate that I had that time to really get my head around it. I didn't exactly know what my services were going to be until I had really had to decide. But then when I decided that this is how I'm going to move forward, I was able to hit the ground running. And, it's only been 3-4 months, but I already have hired 3 people. I have, a functional running company. And so, so that's how I got to where I am. And what I decided for the services that we were going to offer is I took the experience that I had, what I was good at, what I enjoyed, what I was kind of known for in the industry. And I packaged it up into a service that I could provide to not just one CEO, but to multiple CEOs. So instead of one-to-one, one-to-many. And so we developed a couple of different packages. So we do thought leadership marketing, and we do marketing strategy. So thought leadership marketing for CEOs and marketing strategy for small businesses.
Oh, okay. And of course you bring to your own business a wealth of experience and a background in being successful in that. And you kind of touched on, my next question. But maybe you can expand on that a little bit. Most
Yeah.
businesses, when they begin or they get thought of, they either, look to address a problem, because that's a way to make money, or address a need. So, who does your business help the most? Like, who's your niche client?
Yeah. So here's what's interesting is those first few days, first few weeks when I was still kind of like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Right. I was talking to a lot of people. And one of the conversations that was really pivotal for me was when I was talking to a person. He said, your business is going to evolve. You probably don't even know what you want to offer yet. And I said, yeah, I do. And he said, well, what do you want to offer? And so I explained to him, I want to help thought leaders build their platform. I want to help people find speaking engagements, do their LinkedIn posting for them, find
Oh, okay.
podcast interviews. So I said this without, I mean, I want to say without much thought. Clearly, I had been thinking about it, but
Right.
it had come out of me. And he said, well, then why aren't you doing that? There's nobody doing that. And there are people, I mean, I've discovered there are people doing that, right? But what I did was package that up into a specific service offering. So we're not just doing your LinkedIn. We're not just a speaker platform agency. We package that up into a strategy that's we're going to do all of those things for you. So our kind of the best person for us to work with is a CEO, business owner, entrepreneur who wants to establish their thought leadership platform. Everyone that I have explained what we do to, where it's resonated with them, is they know they need to go out and speak. They don't have the time to go and research events or apply for those events. They maybe have a team, maybe not. But even if they have a team, their team doesn't have time. They're just busy, right? And they're just like, if you can help me find those speaking events, that would take a huge, whatever thing off of our plate, right?
Right.
So it, it's just been amazing to me when I explain what we do. They're like, oh, we need that, and I'm like, okay, let's go. So
So essentially, you've developed a turnkey solution to
mhm.
help these CEOs that just cover, everything, all their needs, and wrap that up in a neat little bow and says, this is what we can do,
Yep.
and we do it well.
Yes, and we do, right? So yeah, so we can do that research, and we research events. We get to know them first and find out who is their target audience. What are what do they want to do when it comes to travel? Some people are like, I want to stay close to home. Some are
Right.
like, I'll go anywhere, right? And so we just get to know what their unique kind of expectations are, what their interests are. And then we do the research. We bring them some ideas. We say, here's are some of the events that we found. We get some feedback on those, and then we can kind of take it to the next level. And we try to what we try to do is get them on 2 to 3 podcasts. I don't know what I'm doing with my hair there. 2 to 3 podcast interviews per month. We do 2 to 3 LinkedIn posts for them on a weekly basis, and then we try to find them at least one speaking event per month. That's kind of what what we shoot for. It takes a little while to start getting those going, but that's kind of what we look for them. Of course, if we find more per month and they're willing to travel more, great. But that's kind of the baseline that we set for them.
Oh, fantastic. And when you had about 2 years to think about, exactly what it is you want to do. Um, and as you may have experienced personally, even just starting the business and getting, all the I's dotted and T's crossed, you may have encountered some challenges or hurdles along the way. So, what was the biggest hurdle that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
I think, starting a business that's brand new, my the day that I registered the business, I remember like feeling very weird. Literally, like that same day or within days of that, we were just at a community event, and somebody had asked me like, "Well, oh, what do you do?" And I was like, "I don't know. What do I do? Like? How do I explain this? Like, I don't even have a client yet. Like, how do you know?" And my husband was like, "No, like." you do this. And I'm like, I know, but like, it feels really weird when you don't even have a client yet. Right.
Right.
So that to me, I mean, just being pretty new, was the first big hurdle, was just like getting my head around, I am an owner of an agency. And then how do I get that first client? Right. And so I registered my business, I think November 14th was the day. And I got my
Right.
first client on December 1st. And so once I got that first client, it was like, oh, okay, got this, like, then, then starting to structure how we provide those services, what those deliverables will be. I mean, there's lots of little hurdles along the way, but that first biggest one for me was just getting my head around, this is real. And how do I sell this? Right. And then
Right.
it just started happening, and got a couple new clients in the month of December. And it just has grown really fast, where we're like, okay, we're figuring it out as we go. But you know I think getting my head around the fact that we know what we're doing. I was able to hire a couple people, and
Right.
they're really specialists in what they do, and then just, I guess, gaining confidence in that.
So when you figured out, what you needed to do to get your first client, and you got your first client, tell me what that moment was like. Like, yeah, okay, I'm on the right path. I can do this. What was that like for you?
Well, I don't think I had that sigh moment that you just explained, because that sounded really, really relaxing and great. Instead, it was like, okay, now I got to deliver really fast. That was.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'll buy that.
I mean, I put a lot of pressure on myself, but as soon as we got that first client, I knew how I wanted to deliver the service, but then it was like, I want to make sure that we're delivering value as soon as possible, so that they are getting what they're paying for. I want to make sure that they're happy with what they're getting. So yeah, relief in the sense of, okay, we got this, and now we can start structuring it. But then also the pressure of, now we have to make this work, right? We have to bring
Right,
this
right.
together for the client. And that happened pretty quickly also. It's just I think getting your feet on solid ground under you, and just going like, okay, now this step, now this step, and you just keep going, right? You just keep plugging away every day, and things come together. You create the systems, you get the people in place, all of those things kind of come with each step along the way.
So you're only a few months into it. Is it too early to ask? Maybe it's not actually. What has been your proudest moment so far, like right now?
Proudest moment. Okay, yes, I have a great story. So a couple weeks ago, it was maybe, yeah, 2, 3 weeks ago. I was out and about, and I looked at my phone. I saw that somebody had scheduled a consultation with us, and I went, "Who is this? Like, I have no idea who this is." And so I got to my desk and I looked it up, and the person had written me a note in there. Hey, Kelly, we need help with our developing a marketing plan. We want to grow, and we're stuck. And I thought, how in the world did this person find? I don't know this person. They didn't mention anyone else. It wasn't a referral. So when we sat down for the consultation, I just asked, like, how did you hear about me? And he said, I was listening to a podcast and they mentioned you. And so I dug into that a little bit. It was a podcast from 2020, so 5 years ago. And
Wow.
it was a podcast episode I was not in. I was not interviewed in that podcast, but somebody had mentioned me in that podcast, saying, we should have Kelly on the show. He looked me up and saw kind of what I had done. He saw my background on LinkedIn, scheduled a consultation with me. Then he said to me on that call, I am baking a cake and you have the recipe. And that to me was mind blowing. Like, I was like, I have a reputation out there online that I didn't even proactively build over the last 5 years. It just happened because I had been working and doing a good job, and
Right, right.
I was recognized for that by this person finding me online, coming to me. He then, within an hour of that call, signed up to do a workshop with us. So we're going to do a workshop helping him build his marketing plan. So all of that was just, to me, that was just fascinating. Like, how quickly, once you put out into the universe that you are going to start this business, here's what we're doing, it starts coming your way if you've built that reputation and have that career
I'm
capital.
a big believer of how the universe works. And yeah,
Yeah.
you throw it out there and you focus on it and you do your visualizations and you see yourself as already winning at the time you're doing it. And yeah, somehow, even in my own experience, I see that the universe has a way of aligning people, places, and things to
Yeah.
match that frequency that you're on. So going back to like the building part of it,
Yeah.
as you know, when you're starting off a business or you're looking to launch a business, it could be a little capital intensive. And my listeners would probably want to know, um, how did you manage that early on? How did you secure the financing you needed to launch your business?
Well, again, I'm very fortunate in that because I was laid off, I had a little bit of a cushion from that.
Okay,
So I, like I said, I wouldn't have gone out and gotten a loan to start a business because I'm such a non-risk taker that I would have been too fearful.
right,
Now I look back and I realize that if I would have taken out a loan for really a pretty small amount of money, in the grand scheme of things, that I could have done that, but I wouldn't have trusted myself to be able to, I would have been too scared of taking on that debt. And now I realize like I could have done this a year ago by taking out a loan for maybe 50 to $100,000. Very simply. If I could talk to my past self, I would say do it. But luckily, I didn't have to do it because I just had a little bit of a cushion from that situation.
okay, and I guess to get it launched at least at the very beginning, it wasn't as capital intensive. Am I right
Right.
in saying
Nothing
that?
I was doing was capital intensive. It was really just how are you going to pay yourself? How are you going to pay the people that are coming on,
Right.
that you're bringing on? How are you going to pay for any of the software tools or things like that? Other than that, I mean, when you're creating a service based business, uh, there aren't other. I don't have inventory. I don't have
Right. Right. Of
anything
course.
like that. I had to machines or anything I had to invest in. So yeah, so again, in the grand scheme of things, starting a business, it's a pretty low lift, cash flow wise, to get started. um I still just wouldn't have taken that risk. And I don't know, that's one thing I look back now and go, gosh, I really could have, but I now you live and learn, right? Now now I know.
Yeah,
But
but you got to trust that inner voice, and I think at that time, based on what you shared with us earlier about not being a risk taker, that's what your inner voice was telling you. So
yep.
you went with it, but look at how it turned out. So where do you see yourself in the next year or two? What any big growth plans that you have in mind that you're looking to attack?
Yeah, well, yeah, I started thinking, I mean, this has been in my mind, but like over the last couple days I've been like I really need to map this out. But yeah, my original goal was just replace my income, right? And build my team. Very minimal goal, but uh my next goal is to get us to $1 million in recurring revenue by the end of this year.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to ask you this before we go. If there's one thing, given the opportunity, that could change your business tomorrow, what would that be?
Well, I mean, one thing would be, we just talked about cash, so I feel like that would be like the one thing that I would say if there was cash flow in the business, then that would that would make us where we're not worried about the payroll or anything like that. I think that would, especially at our stage, being this early on, would change everything for us, right? But it's not just getting the money, it's also just maybe getting the clients, like, right? So one thing being the cash flow, but could be money itself, or could be that bank of clients that that you're working with. So either one, those will be life changing for us as we grow.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, as you grow and you have a little bit more time in business, you'll have some options open to you. And that's something that, we could discuss at some point. Kelly, it's been great learning about 2 Mile High marketing. For
Yeah.
those that want to follow you, how do they connect? How do they find you?
Yeah. So LinkedIn, first of all, it's my name, and I'm sure you can put it in the show notes because it's not the easiest to spell. But yeah, so Kelly Schuknecht on LinkedIn. And my website is 2milehighmarketing.com. And the 2 Mile High comes from I live at 2 miles high. Denver is the Mile High city, and I am in the Leadville area, which is at 10,200 feet.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was certainly
Thank you,
my
Irv.
pleasure. And thank you for sharing your story. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and tune in for more inspiring business spotlights. Until next time, I'm your host, Irv Cruz, and we'll see you on the next Credit Bank Small Business Spotlight. If you enjoyed this video, click here to watch another exciting episode.